My name is Alexander Alex Rosen, and I serve as the head of state animal protection in my home state of Cedarview. That means I oversee policies, rescue operations, and enforcement actions for everything relating to animal welfare, ranging from cruelty investigations to coordinating legitimate animal control procedures. It's a job I carry out with a sense of deep responsibility and empathy for our four-legged, and sometimes feathered or scaly companions. Despite the high-stakes nature of my work, I've long desired a peaceful home environment, a place to unwind with my wife, Simone, and our two beloved pets, our golden retriever, Maisie, and our orange tabby cat, Leo. That's why we were excited to move into Elmwood Meadows, a picturesque suburban neighborhood dotted with pine trees, neat lawns, and winding sidewalks. By all appearances, it looked like the perfect environment to raise our small, happy family. Early on, we were impressed by how tidy and uniform Elmwood Meadows was. The Homeowners Association, we were told, took great pride in upholding aesthetic standards, regulating everything from lawn height to mailbox colors. I wasn't worried. After all, an HOA's typical purview is ensuring uniform exteriors and collecting monthly fees for maintenance. Little did I suspect that the HOA here was an entrenched regime run by a domineering woman, Monica Ashland, though everyone behind closed doors referred to her by the infamous moniker, Karen. From our very first week in Elmwood Meadows, subtle hints began floating our way. A neighbor we befriended, Jess Miller, who lived 2 houses down, whispered cautionary tales over a welcome to the neighborhood dinner. "People call the HOA president Karen," she said, half smiling. "Her real name is Monica, but we all know the type. She's pushy, self-righteous, and bullies anyone who challenges the HOA rules." "Is it really that bad?" I asked, honestly surprised. Jess shrugged. "Depends. If you keep a low profile and never forget to maintain a perfect lawn, you might not have any trouble. But families with more than one pet, or those who disagree with her about the smallest thing, like mailbox size, often face petty fines and intimidation." As head of state animal protection, I was used to dealing with people who broke laws related to animal welfare, but I never expected to confront that problem at my own front door. Yet, the more I heard about Karen, the more uneasy I became. It seemed she relished control, looking for ways to push boundaries under the guise of maintaining the community's integrity. I hoped we could simply stay on her good side, but the universe had other plans. Within days, Simone and I decided to host a small housewarming get-together. We invited a handful of neighbors for an afternoon barbecue in our fenced backyard. Maisie, our golden retriever, bounded around excitedly, greeting each new face with a wagging tail. Leo, the cat, observed from a safe vantage point atop the windowsill indoors. Right as the grill started sizzling, a woman in a crisp, salmon-colored blazer and matching skirt arrived unannounced. She had short, precisely styled chestnut hair and carried a leather-bound notebook. With her chin held high, she scanned the yard with a critical gaze before stepping forward. "Good afternoon," she began, voice tinged with condescension. "I'm Monica Ashland, the HOA president, though some folks like to call me Karen, which I find disrespectful." Her tight-lipped smile suggested she was entirely aware of, and not fond of, her nickname. Startled, I gave her a polite nod. "I'm Alex Rosen. We're hosting a casual gathering for a few neighbors." Her eyes flickered to Maisie, who was happily playing with Jess's son. "Your dog is quite energetic. I trust you'll keep her under control. We have strict guidelines about nuisance barking, fence integrity, and pet-related disruptions to community peace." Simone, standing beside me, forced a friendly smile. "Maisie's very well trained, Ms. Ashland. No worries about barking. She just loves meeting people." Karen nodded slowly, scribbling something in her notebook. She extended a pamphlet. "Here's our updated Elmwood Meadows pet policy. Please read it thoroughly. We don't tolerate any stray animals, and all dogs must be leashed in common areas. Also, if you plan on adopting more pets, you'll need HOA approval." I accepted the pamphlet, biting my tongue. The notion of HOA approval for adopting a pet was nonsense. Under state law, no HOA can override fundamental ownership rights or well-being for domestic animals. But I kept silent for the sake of neighborly harmony. Karen gave another chilly smile and left with a swish of her blazer, as if she had accomplished her duty of intimidation. After she vanished, Jess came over and whispered, that was your first official Karen moment. Brace yourselves. This is only the beginning. Over the next month, Simone and I settled into a comfortable routine. I commuted to the state agency's headquarters, about 40 minutes away, where I oversaw investigations into animal cruelty complaints and supervised rescue teams. Simone worked from home as a freelance graphic designer, managing an array of creative projects while also caring for Maisie and Leo. One afternoon, Simone called me in a panic. "Alex," she said, voice trembling. "There's a letter from the HOA complaining that Maisie's barking is disturbing neighbors. They said we must pay a $200 fine or face legal action." I frowned. Maisie doesn't bark that much. We've barely heard a peep from her except when the mailman shows up. Are they serious? Simone read the letter's official-sounding text. It accused us of failing to keep our dog's noise under control and threatened further penalties if we didn't comply. The letter was signed by M. Ashland, HOA president. When I got home that evening, I spoke to neighbors on both sides of our house. Neither had complained about barking. Both said they barely heard Maisie at all. Suspicious, I wrote a polite email to Karen, asking for any proof or date and time logs of these alleged barking incidents. I also reminded her that the HOA bylaws required documented complaints from actual residents, not just speculation. Her reply was curt. "Mr. Rosen, the HOA has received multiple complaints from anonymous neighbors. If you choose not to settle the fine, we may escalate the matter. Respectfully, Ms. M. Ashland." That was our second clue that Karen was bent on controlling the pet situation in Elmwood Meadows, whether or not complaints were legitimate. Amid these minor tensions, something ominous began unfolding in our neighborhood. Jess mentioned that her cat, a sweet calico named Trixie, had gone missing for 3 days. Jess was beside herself with worry, plastering missing cat flyers across street poles and online community boards. Simone and I volunteered to help search. We canvassed local yards, the small park at the end of the cul-de-sac, and even checked the local shelter records to see if Trixie had been turned in. Nothing. Around that same time, we learned of at least 2 more cats that had vanished from Elmwood Meadows. A hush of fear settled over the community. Was there a cat thief, or perhaps a predator lurking around? Jess tried reporting the missing cat to the local Humane Society, which coordinated with my state-level office. But there was no official record of an animal control pickup in Elmwood Meadows for Trixie. If Trixie had been seized by legitimate animal control, there'd be an electronic record. That discrepancy nagged at me. Someone might be pretending to be official animal control and grabbing pets. But that idea seemed almost too sinister to believe. During a casual conversation, a middle-aged couple named the Ramirez family confided that they'd also lost their cat, an older Siamese named Coco, under strange circumstances. They claimed they saw a white van parked in front of their home that morning, labeled County Animal Control, but the county had no white vans. They used official trucks with county seals. Coco vanished hours later. Shaken by the pattern, I decided to do some covert investigating. I quietly asked around, speaking to neighbors who'd lost pets or noticed suspicious vehicles. One older gentleman, Mr. Cummings, told me he had glimpsed a pair of individuals in uniforms walking around with a net, claiming they were rounding up strays, even though they took a well-collared cat off someone's porch. Startled, Mr. Cummings tried asking them for ID, but they brushed him off. My professional instincts kicked into high gear. There was a possible ring of pet thieves impersonating animal control. This was a serious crime. State law harshly penalizes individuals who impersonate government animal protection or remove domestic animals without owners' consent. The question was, why would anyone in Elmwood Meadows want to orchestrate such a scheme? One name came to mind, Karen. She had already shown signs of hostility toward pets, but I had no proof yet. Around the same time, a notice arrived in every homeowner's mailbox. Announcement: Pets Subcommittee launch. The Elmwood Meadows HOA is forming a pets subcommittee to address growing concerns about uncontrolled animals, sanitation, and community health risks. We will institute stricter regulations for dogs, cats, and other pets to protect our neighbors from noise, damage, and potential disease. The subcommittee will operate under the authority of the HOA president, Ms. Monica Ashland. I read the announcement with unease. Stricter regulations and protect neighbors sounded like code for more scrutiny and possible removal of animals. Sure enough, The subcommittee's first meeting included agenda items such as creating a community-approved list of acceptable pets, mandating microchipping or HOA tags with an annual fee, requiring leashes at all times outdoors, even in personal fenced yards, if visibility from the street existed. This was extreme. Under state law, HOAs can't unilaterally ban lawful pets or impose licensing fees beyond what local municipalities require. I decided to attend that subcommittee meeting not as head of state animal protection, but as an ordinary resident wanting to observe. I suspected Karen's plan might revolve around forging an environment where unapproved animals could be seized. If so, I needed to gather evidence. The night of the subcommittee meeting, I arrived at the HOA clubhouse, a modest building next to the community pool. About a dozen residents were there, plus Karen, who sat at a long table up front like a judge presiding over court. Two men in suspiciously plain uniforms stood at the back, arms crossed, some sort of enforcers, perhaps? Karen kicked off the meeting with a stern monologue. It's come to my attention that we have a growing problem with stray and nuisance animals in Elmwood Meadows. We want to ensure the safety of all. Therefore, we'll be implementing stricter policies. She listed proposals. A maximum of 2 pets per household, regardless of property size or local laws. Mandatory HOA tags. Fenced-in or leashed protocols at all times. The right to remove any unlicensed or unapproved pets found outdoors. Several residents murmured objections. One woman asked, "But I have 3 rescue cats, all indoor only. Why do you get to limit them?" Karen snapped back, "Your household must comply or face fines and potential removal of extra animals." Another man demanded, "What about city ordinances? Don't they override the HOA's limits?" Karen gave a tight smile. Elmwood Meadows has the right to regulate beyond city minimums for the sake of community standards. The tension escalated until I raised my hand. "Ms. Ashland, are you aware that impersonating official animal control is illegal, and forcibly removing someone's pet from private property is theft?" The crowd went silent. Karen glared. "If there are individuals removing unlicensed animals, they may well be legitimate county agents responding to our calls." I pressed gently. "The county's official vehicles have distinct logos and keep meticulous records, but we've found no record of them picking up cats in Elmwood Meadows. Perhaps you're working with an unapproved third-party group." Karen's cheeks reddened. "That's none of your business," she hissed. Then, turning to the assembly, she declared the meeting adjourned, refusing to allow further questions. Suspicion grew. It seemed like the subcommittee was a front for Karen to legitimize removing unwanted animals. I walked away, determined to uncover the truth. Given my position as head of state animal protection, I had resources at my disposal. I discreetly requested that Officer Talia Riggs, one of our top investigators, pay attention to any suspicious private animal control activity in Elmwood Meadows. Talia was adept at infiltration and gathering evidence. Within days, Talia uncovered a lead. A small private security firm named SafePaws Solutions, completely unknown to official county registries, had placed an online ad claiming they specialize in suburban pet management and removal of nuisance animals. They had no legitimate licensing for actual animal control. Their website boasted HOA partnerships for stealth solutions. The phone number matched the one I'd glimpsed in Karen's subcommittee notes. Confronting SafePaws directly might tip them off, so Talia kept monitoring. Meanwhile, I ramped up my own vigilance at home, making sure Maisie and Leo never roamed outside unsupervised. The community rumor mill churned. More cats disappeared, and at least one small dog was reported missing from a yard. Fear and outrage grew among pet owners. One Saturday morning, I walked Leo and his carrier to the vet for a routine checkup. While driving back, I noticed a white van parked 2 streets from my house. Emblazoned on the side was County Animal Control, but the font looked off. No official county seal, just words. As I slowed down to get a better look, 2 uniformed individuals stepped out, glancing around nervously. My heart pounded. Could this be the impersonators? Acting on instinct, I pulled over a short distance away and grabbed my phone. I snapped a few photos of the van's license plate. Sure enough, the plate was a standard civilian plate, not a government fleet number. The men carried catch poles and crates, but their uniforms lacked any real county insignia. My gut told me they might be about to snatch someone's pet. I called Talia. She advised me to dial local law enforcement as well. Impersonating a government agency is a criminal offense. But before the police could arrive, the men jumped back in the van and sped off, perhaps spooked by my presence. This was all the evidence I needed. My suspicion hardened into near certainty. Karen had hired or contracted with fake animal control officers to illegally seize unapproved pets. Word spread that a suspicious van was prowling the neighborhood, possibly kidnapping pets. Many distraught families formed a volunteer watch, combing the streets and alleys. Some folks confronted Karen directly, demanding answers. She deflected, claiming, "We have authorized professionals addressing the stray problem. If your pets are truly licensed and under control, you have nothing to fear." Her dismissive stance infuriated residents. A few threatened lawsuits, but Karen waved them off. The HOA has the right to protect property values, she insisted. Meanwhile, she kept mailing out fines to any household rumored to have an unregistered pet. The air felt charged, as if the neighborhood was on the brink of an uprising. Yet, Karen seemed confident no one could prove her personal involvement. What Karen didn't realize was that she had targeted the wrong household in her quest to regulate all pets. I was determined to leverage my state authority once I had ironclad evidence. Working closely with Talia, we devised a plan to catch the fake animal control van in the act. She set up discreet surveillance cameras on several telephone poles in Elmwood Meadows, high enough to avoid detection. These cameras would capture license plates and any suspicious activity. Additionally, we asked a few neighbors to alert us immediately if they saw the white van or if individuals dressed as animal control approached their property. Within days, we got a hit. Around noon on a Wednesday, the camera feed picked up the van pulling up to a house near the neighborhood entrance. Two impersonators hopped out, walked around to the side gate, and forcibly took a small beagle from the yard. The footage clearly showed that the dog wore a collar with tags, meaning it wasn't a stray. Talia watched in real time, calling local police. By the time officers arrived, the thieves were gone, but we had photographic and video proof. We also captured audio as one impersonator muttered into a walkie-talkie. Another pickup at Elmwood Meadows. Karen wants us to check if there's a cat next door too. Karen. Our evidence now directly linked her name to the criminals. That sealed her fate. Talia and I decided we had enough preliminary evidence to confront Karen about the suspicious van. Before taking official action, we wanted to see if she'd confess or slip up in a conversation. We requested a private meeting with the HOA at the clubhouse. Karen welcomed us with forced politeness. Also present were two other board members, both sporting nervous expressions. Karen sat behind a large wooden desk, tapping her pen impatiently. "What can I do for you, Mr. Rosen?" she asked, ignoring Talia's presence. I took a seat. "We have credible information that a white van posing as county animal control has been seizing pets from Elmwood Meadows. We suspect the HOA may have contracted them. Can you confirm or deny?" Karen raised her eyebrows in mock surprise. "That's quite an accusation. I have no knowledge of any fake vans. We do coordinate with outside services to manage strays, but everything is above board." Talia placed a still image from our camera feed on the desk. The impersonators loading a beagle into a crate. "This is an illegal seizure of a resident's dog. She was not a stray. The individuals wore uniforms with no official county insignia. Ms. Ashland, you do realize this is a serious crime?" Karen glared at the photo, color draining from her face for a split second. She recovered quickly, feigning indifference. "I see no definitive proof of wrongdoing. You can't expect me to identify random men from a blurry photo." The board members exchanged uneasy glances. One started to speak, but Karen silenced him with a gesture. Talia pressed. "The men in the photo mention your name, Karen. We have audio." "Is that so?" Karen said icily. "Then maybe they misused my name to gain credibility. I have no involvement. Now, if you have no official HOA matter, kindly leave." Realizing she'd stonewall us at every turn, Talia and I left, but not before I added quietly, "Karen, you're playing with fire. This will not end well if you continue." Her silence was telling. We escalated the matter to the local police department. I also utilized my capacity as head of state animal protection to open a formal investigation. Even though HOAs are private entities, Any involvement in stolen pets or impersonating government services falls under public criminal jurisdiction. We pulled the phone records of SafePaws Solutions, obtaining a judge's warrant to examine their client list. As suspected, the top-paying client was Elmwood Meadows HOA, authorized by M. Ashland. We built a timeline of each missing pet, matching it to SafePaws Solutions records and the newly installed surveillance camera footage. The case was ironclad. Karen had orchestrated a clandestine ring to remove what she deemed problem pets, labeling them strays or unlicensed animals. In reality, these were beloved family pets. Late one Friday night, Simone and I were watching a movie when Maisie, our golden retriever, started barking near the back door. She rarely barked unless something was really off. I peered through the window and spotted two men creeping around our fence, wearing the same suspicious uniforms. A wave of anger coursed through me. They were here to take our dog or cat under the pretext of animal control. I whipped out my phone, preparing to call the police. Before I could dial, my phone buzzed, Talia's number. She must have received an alert from the hidden cameras. Alex, are you okay? The van is parked near your backyard. We're dispatching police now. Thank you, I whispered. We'll stay inside. Simone cradled Leo, fear evident in her eyes. They're actually trying to break in? Are they that bold? Apparently, yes. The men rattled our side gate, calling out. We're with County Animal Control. Open up. We have a report of a dangerous dog here. I flung open a window from inside the house, my voice firm. This is private property. Leave immediately, or you'll be arrested for trespassing. Maisie snarled by my side, sensing the intruders. The men conferred, stepping back nervously. Within minutes, we saw red and blue lights flashing as patrol cars screeched to a stop on our street. The fake officers tried to flee, but the police apprehended them near the van. Simone and I watched from the window, relief flooding over us. But the bigger question loomed. Would this lead us directly back to Karen? The two suspects were taken into custody. They initially refused to speak, except to claim they were legally contracted. However, faced with the prospect of serious felony charges, criminal impersonation, trespass, theft of pets, potential extortion, they began to talk. A detective confided in me the next day. They admitted they were hired by Elmwood Meadows HOA leadership to remove any animals not registered or approved. They said Ms. Ashland specifically instructed them to target your home, ironically for a dog that might be aggressive. I smothered a bitter laugh. Maisie was one of the gentlest golden retrievers imaginable. This was Karen's retaliation for our confrontation. The detective added that the men provided partial documentation of the contract with the HOA, plus text message correspondence from Karen's personal phone. The evidence was damning. We also learned that the stolen pets had been placed in a holding facility outside the county, sometimes sold off or rehomed under shady conditions. My heart broke for the owners who'd lost beloved companions, not knowing if they'd ever see them again. Once news of the arrest spread, residents of Elmwood Meadows erupted with outrage. Many stormed the next HOA board meeting, demanding answers. Karen tried to deflect blame, claiming she was unaware of the impersonators' illegal methods. But with the contract, phone records, and confessions all pointing at her, the walls began closing in. Several board members resigned immediately, refusing to be implicated in such a heinous scheme. They confided to neighbors that Karen ran the HOA like a dictatorship, intimidating them into silence. Now they were done covering for her. Meanwhile, families whose pets had been taken formed a legal coalition, preparing civil suits against both Karen and the HOA for damages. Panicked, Karen sent out frantic emails to the community. All allegations are false. I acted in good faith for the community's safety. I will fight these slanderous accusations vigorously. Yet few believed her. The tide had turned. She was about to face not only civil litigation, but also a full-scale criminal prosecution. A glimmer of hope emerged in this dark saga. Talia and I collaborated with local and state law enforcement to raid the SafePaws Solutions facility where stolen animals were kept. We discovered nearly 24 dogs and cats from Elmwood Meadows, and possibly beyond, caged in substandard conditions. Joy flooded the community when the animals were rescued, though some were in poor health or traumatized. Neighbors wept tears of relief as they were reunited with their missing pets. Jess, my friend who had lost her cat Trixie, sobbed uncontrollably upon seeing her calico trembling in a kennel. The sense of betrayal mingled with gratitude that the animals were safe now. We compiled detailed records of each recovered pet, verifying microchips or owner identification. In the majority of cases, we could match them back to their families. The rescue operation made headline news in Cedarview. Fake animal control ring busted. Pets reunited. Karen's name surfaced repeatedly in those articles, marking her as the alleged mastermind. Armed with overwhelming evidence, the local district attorney's office secured an arrest warrant for Monica Karen Ashland on charges of conspiracy to commit theft, impersonation of a government agency, cruelty to animals, grand larceny for high-value pets, and several other counts. The day the warrant was executed, a squad of police cars rolled into Elmwood Meadows. Residents peeked out from windows and porches as officers approached Karen's large, meticulously landscaped home. She opened the door with an air of indignation, only to see the warrant in the lead detective's hand. Despite her protests, "I am the HOA president. You have no authority here." She was handcuffed and taken into custody. Her final screams reverberated through the neighborhood. "You'll regret this. I did nothing wrong." But everyone knew the jig was up. With Karen behind bars, the HOA board scrambled to reorganize. Board positions that had previously been filled by Karen's loyalists were quickly vacated. The new interim president, a soft-spoken accountant named Francine Douglas, publicly denounced Karen's actions. "We never authorized the theft of pets," Francine declared at an emergency HOA meeting. Karen misrepresented the board's intentions, forging signatures and ignoring standard procedures. "We will cooperate fully with investigators." Many suspected that some board members knew more than they admitted. But for now, the focus was on stabilizing Elmwood Meadows. Residents demanded immediate changes to HOA bylaws, ensuring no future president could unilaterally hire outside contractors to remove pets. They also implemented a new rule requiring any HOA animal control partnership to be cleared through a transparent, city-approved process. Karen's arrest sparked a media frenzy. News channels interviewed traumatized pet owners, showing tearful reunions and stirring public emotion. Social media roasted Karen's mugshot, labeling her the pet thief Karen. Meanwhile, her defense attorney insisted she was a scapegoat and had no knowledge of the illegal methods used. The district attorney, however, felt confident. The chain of evidence was extremely robust. Text messages instructing SafePaws to pick up any unregistered dogs or cats, direct payments from the HOA to the impersonators, and multiple witness accounts of Karen bragging about cleaning up the stray problem. The cruelty charges were underscored by the poor conditions at SafePaws facility, evidence that Karen didn't care about the animals' welfare once removed. Despite Karen's attempts to secure bail, the judge deemed her a flight risk and a danger to the community. She was remanded pending trial. Civil lawsuits poured in. Over a dozen families whose pets had been stolen joined a class action suit, seeking damages for emotional distress and veterinary care. Others sued the HOA, claiming it failed to oversee Karen or properly audit her expenditures. The board, desperate to limit liability, distanced itself from Karen, claiming they never approved such radical measures. Insurance carriers balked, disclaiming coverage for criminal activities. This left Karen personally on the hook for enormous potential payouts if found liable. Her once well-manicured property, rumored to be financed by large personal loans, was under threat of foreclosure if she lost the suits. That entire summer, Elmwood Meadows grappled with uncertain finances. Karen's wrongdoing tainted the HOA's reputation, and prospective homebuyers were wary. The new leadership tried to restore faith, apologizing and offering waived fees to families impacted by the fiasco. While most neighbors knew me as Alex, a nice guy who loves animals, few realized the extent of my position in state government. That changed when the local news interviewed me, identifying me as Alexander Rosen, head of state animal protection, who played a crucial role in exposing the pet theft ring. The neighborhood buzzed with this revelation. People wondered how Karen could be so foolish as to target the home of the state's top animal protection officer. The irony was not lost on anyone. "You'd think she would have done her homework," one resident quipped. From that point on, folks thanked me regularly for helping bring down the scandal, though I reminded them it was a team effort. Talia, the local police, and the cooperative neighbors all made it possible. Karen's trial commenced in a packed courthouse. Prosecutors laid out the evidence in painstaking detail. Jurors watched video footage of the fake animal control van, read transcripts of texts between Karen and SafePaws, and heard emotional testimonies from pet owners. One after another, residents recounted how they discovered their beloved companions had vanished, only to learn they were caged by Karen's henchmen. Karen's defense tried to argue she was misled by the private firm. But the damning text messages told another story. Karen specifically directed them to take away any cats or dogs not wearing official HOA tags, and she boasted about showing these owners who's boss. In a particularly moving moment, Jess described the heartbreak of losing Trixie, her cat, for weeks, fearing she was gone forever. The jury seemed visibly shaken. Combined with the mountain of incriminating documents, it was clear the defense had an uphill battle. After a week of testimony, the jury deliberated for less than a day. They returned a unanimous verdict: guilty on multiple counts, felony impersonation, conspiracy to steal property, in this case, pets, animal cruelty, and more. Karen's face paled as the verdict was read. All her bravado drained away, replaced by a stunned silence. Across the courtroom, families who'd been victimized released tears of relief, their faith in justice reaffirmed. The judge scheduled sentencing 2 weeks later, warning Karen she faced serious prison time. Outside the courthouse, reporters bombarded me for comments. I kept it brief. Today's verdict sends a strong message that no one is above the law, and that pets are cherished family members, not disposable property. Let this be a lesson to anyone who tries to circumvent animal welfare laws. On sentencing day, the courtroom was once again filled to capacity. The judge sharply criticized Karen's abuse of power as HOA president and her total disregard for animals' well-being. He noted that many families suffered emotional anguish. Some pets experienced neglect or trauma at the SafePaws facility, and the entire community was shaken by her actions. He handed down a lengthy prison sentence, multiple years behind bars, plus extensive fines. Restitution was to be paid to each victimized family for veterinary bills, emotional damages, and the cost of litigation. The judge also authorized the seizure of Karen's assets to satisfy the mounting civil judgments. This effectively meant her home in Elmwood, Meadows would be confiscated. The property she once lorded over would now be sold to repay those she harmed. Karen wept openly as bailiffs took her back into custody, though no one in the gallery seemed sympathetic. Justice had been served. With Karen gone for good, Elmwood Meadows faced a period of reckoning. The new HOA leadership, led by Francine Douglas, repealed or revised many of Karen's oppressive policies. Gone were the maximum 2 pets rule, the mandated HOA tags, and the threat of random subcommittee inspections. Instead, they adopted a straightforward approach, aligning with official city ordinances and state animal laws. A wave of relief swept the neighborhood. People openly walked their dogs and let their cats lounge on porches again, free of intimidation. Real estate agents worked overtime to salvage the community's reputation, emphasizing that Karen's regime had ended. Slowly, property values rebounded, and trust among neighbors was rebuilt. Meanwhile, SafePaws Solutions dissolved under legal scrutiny. Its owners faced their own criminal charges and lawsuits. The entire fiasco served as a cautionary tale to other HOAs, proving that no private organization can override state laws or the fundamental rights of pet owners. Families who'd lost their pets temporarily found their relationships with those animals tested. Some cats returned frightened, dogs came back with health issues. The local Humane Society stepped in, offering free checkups, behavioral support, and specialized care for animals traumatized by the ordeal. Over time, many recovered fully, wagging tails and purring once more, as if relieved to be safely home. Jess's cat, Trixie, readjusted slowly. Jess dedicated herself to helping other neighbors with missing pets, volunteering at local shelters, and advocating for microchipping. The incident sparked a renewed sense of community activism. Simone and I also played our part. As head of state animal protection, I organized a neighborhood seminar on proper pet care, local laws, and resources for those facing difficulties. Turnout was high. Residents yearned to put the fiasco behind them and foster a more compassionate, lawful approach to pets. About a year after Karen's conviction, I received an unexpected letter from her, routed through the prison system. She wrote in shaky handwriting, claiming she'd had a change of heart and asking if I would meet her. Out of curiosity more than sympathy, I agreed. I visited the state correctional facility, not as a friend, but as a curious observer. Karen, dressed in a drab jumpsuit, looked older and drained of her former arrogance. She mumbled a half apology for overstepping. She insisted she never meant to be cruel, only to keep the neighborhood perfect. Yet, her regret sounded more like pity for herself than genuine empathy for the animals or family she hurt. I nodded, unconvinced by her self-justifications. "Monica," I said quietly, "I hope you spend your time here reflecting on the real consequences of your actions. You separated families from their pets, manipulated people through fear, and broke the law to impose your will." She averted her gaze. I wasn't sure if she would ever truly change, but at least she could no longer harm anyone else. With Karen's downfall complete, her property sold to cover restitution, Elmwood Meadows blossomed into a different place. The oppressive atmosphere evaporated. Neighbors organized monthly pet playdates in the Central Park, where dogs dashed around together and cats, those that ventured outside, explored safely in harnesses. A local animal rescue group started hosting adoption events right in the neighborhood, celebrating the newfound acceptance of pets rather than punishing them. Simone and I continued living happily in our once turbulent community, grateful that Maisie and Leo never had to endure the terror Karen inflicted on so many. Justice had prevailed, in the courts and in the hearts of residents. The story of HOA Karen and the fake animal control became a local legend, a cautionary tale about what happens when one individual's arrogance, fueled by trivial power, collides with the unyielding principles of law and compassion. In the end, the beloved pets of Elmwood Meadows were reunited with their families, and a vile enterprise was dismantled. Karen herself served time in prison, lost her property, and would forever be remembered as the woman who dared to impersonate legitimate animal protection, only to be exposed by the real head of state animal protection living right under her nose.